And basically, the BMAD method works into two phases with very specific agents. The first one is the planning phase, where you have the analyst. Their responsibility is to gather requirements and create briefs about the problem that you need to solve. This is very important so you can think through what you need to solve, and it will provide you tools to think better about these things. You have the PM role, the product manager. Their responsibility is to translate these business needs to how do we structure this into a product development lifecycle. So how do we break the epics and tasks inside the product requirement document, the PRD in this context here. It's a very common practice nowadays in software development. You have the architect role. Based on this specification, which technologies we need to apply to solve that problem. And you can either use this agent in new projects, call it the greenfield ones, and existing projects, call it the brownfield ones. So you can start new projects, or you can enhance the existing projects and you can implement BMAD into existing software to improve new features or make the code base better. We will see some examples about this as well. And you have the UX agent, which responsibility is to provide to you very detailed user experience guidance for those who work for big companies that needs to follow some standards or design system. This is an agent that will help you a lot to provide context to deliver working code following these guidelines. So this is a very important, but it's optional in the workflow in general. And we have the development phase, and the main actors here are the Scrum Master, which responsibility is to read the product requirement document and break down all the actionable stories that we need to work on. We have the developer agent, which will read these stories and will implement in the code following all the technical best practices proposed by the architect. We have the QA agent that will help us to validate all the code delivered by the developer agent and make sure our testing strategy is being implemented as well. Either unit tests, integration tests, end-to-end tests. You will describe if this is necessary or not. It is always necessary, but we have some projects that don't have this, and that's okay. We can improve with the usage of the BMAD method. And finally, you have the orchestrator agent that will help you identify which of these actors should you call to achieve the goal that you want. But the main reason of this course is to teach you step by step how are you going to implement this workflow so that you are the orchestrator of the process. So this is the real value that I will deliver to you, and hopefully you will implement in your projects and in your companies. So here is the official link to the BMAD repository in GitHub. Let's take a look at it. So here's the page. This is a visual representation about this workflow and how these agents collaborate with each other so you understand better how things works inside BMAD. So you will start with a project or feature idea. You can summon this analyst agent, as I explained it, and he is responsible to guide you through brainstorm, market research, and competitor analysis, so you can think through the problem that you need to solve and make sure we are really solving the problem that we are hired to do. So with all of this information here, he's able to create this project brief, which is a document with all the statements necessary to understand what are the problems and what are the possible solutions. This is an optional step because you may already have this clear problem that you need to solve in your company, so you can skip this process here and go straight to product manager role. This agent responsibility is to gather this project brief and create a professional product requirement document with a lot of sections regarding what are the acceptance criteria, what are the epics and stories involved in this process, what are the functional requirements, what are the non-functional requirements, and this will guide all the development that needs to be done over an agile development process. So with this PRG in your hands, you can use the UX agent to create these front-end specifications, as I mentioned to you. If your system have design guidelines to follow, if you have some system design that you need to follow, this agent can create a very detailed specification about what the developer needs to take into account when implemented, especially these front-end pages, despite the framework that you work with. So this is very important. And you can also generate an UI prompt, so you can insert into Lovable, V0, or any other system prompt creation, so you can validate your prototype with other stakeholders or customers. So this is also a very cool feature. And with this product requirement document, you can summon the architect agent, and he will be the responsible for create which architecture do we need to implement the solution. Again, either for a new project, call it the greenfield one, and an existing project, which is called the brownfield one. We will see some examples about how to do those two approaches during the course, so stay tuned. From scratch, we also can think through our testing strategy, especially on high-risk areas where we may have some critical process and we need to make sure they are really well tested, so we will not face any production issues. So this is an optional but very important step. And you have this product owner agent here. I didn't mention it in the slides because it works as a checklist to see if we have all the information necessary to actually start to implement things. So this is what will conclude our upstream process. And all of these agents here, they could be used on web-based tools such as Gemini, OpenAI, and Claude. We will see a demonstration how you can use the prompts provided for BMAD. You just copy paste on those tools and you can use BMAD without the usage of cursor, for example. So when we are good with this, all of these documentations, there is a process called sharding, which will break this big document into very small chunks that will be the context for the LLM tools. This is where the magic happens. We will not bloat the agent context with unnecessary information. During this story creation process, it will read only the necessary context for that particular task, and this is what will provide the necessary and most updated context to the developer implement what he needs to do. This is the trick about this method. And finally, when we go to the downstream phase of the process, we have the Scrum Master reviewing the stories, drafting those documents, which will be the tasks that the developer will work with. If this is a high story risk, you have this workflow here using the QA, where we'll provide a more detailed risk assessment about that story. If something goes wrong, what you need to do. This is a optional step. And within that, you can review the document, you can suggest changes, and once you're good, you will approve this story, and then you move to the developer, sequentially execute all the tasks until you have the epic concluded. So you will implement the tests, you will call the QA to make sure all the implementations match the specifications and the testing strategy. You validate after the development is completed, and once you're good with that, you can finally approve and commit those changes and move to the next task. So in a nutshell, this is how the workflow works. It might be a little bit overwhelming when you see at first, but if you work with software development for a little time, you will see this is how we actually work into day-to-day basis. You will learn how to implement this process from start to the end of this process, and you will memorize how these interactions work, and you will, soon as possible, implement this faster than you imagine, and will significantly improve the way you implement new features in your business, in your team. So I'm very excited to share this with you, and let's go to the next lesson.